Twister Talk with Gary, Sue, and Brandon starts now.
Rams crossing the road right in front of us. He's tearing something apart right now. Big time flash. Shoot, I think a semi got flipped. Are you okay? This is great. Hey, there's big rail cover. We gotta go, sir. Hang in the cut.
Gary, we're in Newcastle right now, and north of us, the thing is still on the ground. There's lots of debris in the air right now. Lots.
You need to be below ground shelter.
I hate Oklahoma.
Tell us how you really feel, honey.
Yeah.
It's Twister Talk. I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
Yeah, really.
Brandon.
And I'm Brandon.
There you
Brandon
go.
is Brandon. Yeah.
I just wasn't sure there for a second.
They've been having kind of an earthquake swarm in Oklahoma in the last few days.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Brandon, you have anything to do with that?
Maybe that woman really does hate Oklahoma. No, I did not.
In that case, she'd be some kind of a witch, I suppose.
Yeah. I'll just swallow it into the ground.
Either that, or I'll have to target my I'll have to target my orbital anti-proton cannon.
There you go.
There you go.
I tell you.
It's those space lasers.
Space.
Yeah, those Jewish space lasers.
Oh, God. That was one of those crazy stories. Yeah. Anyway, hey, we're back with another show, and glad to have you with us.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking to somebody today, and Brandon's going to do the intro in just a moment. We talked to somebody who was kind of in the middle of what was going on back late summer with what happened with Helene. And we talk about the effects in the Carolinas there, and somebody that had to go through some of what happened. So really, really crazy time. And we're still, now we're almost over 2 months away from that.
I think so, right about,
and
yeah.
still, the things have been recovering, but slowly but surely. But I talked to somebody this morning, actually, Sue, who had family in that part of the area, and they said just last week they got their power back on.
Oh, man.
So it's been rugged. So, and still some issues with that. But Brandon, I'm going to let you do the intros, my friend, and get the interview started, and we're going to see where we go from there. So it's all yours, man.
All right. Yeah. I read a news clip here recently where the longtime author of the comic strip Hagar the Horrible had passed away, and I'm wondering if we should transfer that and maybe have Hurricane Helene be known as Helene the Horrible.
Can we get back to that?
That sounds reasonable to me.
Oh, why not? All right. So
anyway,
do your thing.
All right. Well. We have been discussing Helene at length on this show, not only during our updates, but we have also done reviews, and we have, of course, been interviewing some people here recently, maybe not specifically regarding Helene, but certainly regarding how these storms impact various regions. And today we are going to talk to someone who was kind of right in the middle of that. Now, as we know, Helene trekked through the Appalachian part of the eastern U.S., hitting northeast Georgia, easternmost Tennessee, and westernmost North Carolina, the mountainous regions there. And we have a guest here today. Now, she is currently attending NC Western, which is North Carolina University. It is located in one of those small towns I've mentioned, the town of Cullowhee. Mm-hmm. I've, of course, mentioned before that when you get into these mountainous regions, the towns have little names. They have names that you aren't necessarily used to hearing, like Cashers or Cullowhee or Silva. Mm-hmm. Of course, Asheville is a town that's been in the news quite a bit. It also got hit pretty hard. But right now, I want to introduce a young lady who is currently, as I said, attending there. She's also my fiance's daughter, Madeline. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome.
Glad to have you with us. So let's start with talk about the days leading up to the storm. Obviously, everybody following the weather, you knew Helene was heading into going to make landfall, then move on up from Florida into Georgia and everything. What were the first, obviously, I guess what the first impressions were, but how did things move on from when you first heard about the hurricane and then hearing that it's heading for us? What was your reaction, or what was the timeline for that, basically?
Yeah, so it's funny because before I moved to Halloween, I actually lived on the coast, so I lived near Wilmington, and so hurricanes were nothing new to me. Like, we would get hit pretty much every hurricane season, and we'd make it out okay, but it was just something I was kind of generally used to. So when I heard Helene was coming towards us, I wasn't super panicked. Now, my roommate, she had made the passing comment where because they're from Hickory, and she was like, Hickory's saying this is going to be the worst storm that it's going to have in 100 years. Hickory's about 2 hours away from us, so I was like, we're probably going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. And we didn't get any warnings that much. We just we got a flash flood warning about a day or two before, and then school didn't get canceled until Thursday night. The hurricane hit us Friday morning.
Just curious here, Maddie. When did you first realize that Helene actually was going to kind of be a threat to your area?
We didn't. We were super underprepared. Like I said, we only got a flash flood warning, which is pretty common for the area. It wasn't until we woke up Friday morning and we looked outside and our road was a part of the river.
That'll do it to you every time.
Wow.
I've looked out the window sometimes during heavy rainstorms, and you see that, your driveway or your parking lot is suddenly, there's a fast flowing river where the street used to be. Now it's not the same as, the road being washed out or the road bed being washed away in a hurricane, but now you lived in Wilmington for a while, so you've kind of seen this from both ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
You've been in an area that's kind of used to getting hit by hurricanes, and now you live in an area that really isn't. Was there anything specific you noticed about how the people around you, reacted, prepared, didn't prepare, et cetera? Kind of compare and contrast the two regions, Wilmington versus the mountains.
Yeah. Well, Wilmington is always a little bit more prepared in general. I notice we always pay a lot more attention whenever hurricanes are coming through because we're expecting it. My adoptee dad, Brian, he would always board up the windows. We would get, the milk and bread, and North Carolina's specialty whenever it comes to hurricanes. We would get all our supplies. However, here in Halloween, what I noticed during the after effects and the preparedness, it felt a lot like COVID, where it was almost like a very dystopian feel. Everyone was panicking. There were long lines at the gas stations. Gas was running out. All the milk, the bread, everything like that was just completely cleared from the grocery stores. There was just definitely a panic vibe.
Now, that was after it hit or just before it hit?
That was after. Before, again, there wasn't much people were doing because we just thought it would just be, a little bit of flooding here and there, and we'd be, on our way.
That really surprises me because Gary and I had been watching that storm for several days by the time it impacted North Carolina. And the rain totals that were being forecast by the National Hurricane Center were alarming, and in the end, they turned out to be accurate. So I'm kind of surprised that there wasn't more public notice that there might be some flooding from this.
No, we had absolutely nothing. We just had a flood warning. Our school put out a little notice, but again, that was literally about a day or two before the storm hit.
Yeah, good heavens.
As all this is breaking over you, Maddie, what was the reaction of yourself and people around you realize, this is not going to be a couple hour shower and it's out of here. You realize this is going to be something significant and it's going to impact your community. How did everybody start to react to that when you realize this is going to be worse than we thought?
Like I said, it was very overnight. So we didn't really see how bad we were going to get hit until we got hit. And that morning, whenever we went outside and we saw our road was just completely flooded, we just called out of work. We're pretty much stuck. And so our entire apartment complex just kind of had an outdoor cookout. And
okay,
it's college students. So we broke out the beer.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, right.
That's one way to pass the time.
That's the perfect reaction to something like that. How much damage was actually done in the town and on the campus?
So our campus, our parking lots had some floods. I live right across from our community garden, and that was completely like cleared out. We had a little construction site also on the road in front of us, and the construction equipment was completely, it's destroyed. It was underwater. Those like little elevator cat things, like it was. You only saw like the hood of it poking out the top. The most that I noticed, besides, obviously the power lines being down, was our roads, definitely a lot more potholes appearing, and a lot more construction that we had to do on those for work. Other than that, like, it wasn't too bad. I know that the trailer park that was literally a couple doors down from us had to get evacuated.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So how long were you without power in your area?
Funnily enough, our specific apartment complex had power. What we didn't have was Wi-Fi or cell service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we were extraordinarily lucky.
In these modern times, that's actually probably even worse than having your power out.
It was rough. I think the most scary thing about that experience as a whole was not being able to communicate. I was very lucky to be able to call my mom right before the power went out. Otherwise, Brandon and Julie wouldn't have been able to hear from me for like 4 days.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember we were not able to get a hold of you for, a few days in and around that area because I know that your power had gone out. I know you had been able to get a message out that your Wi-Fi and internet service were down. So now just out of curiosity, I know that Elon Musk went in there and set up a bunch of his Starlink internet terminals. Is that what you were able to get internet on, or did your local provider, were they finally able to, repair whatever the damage was and reestablish contact?
I think, I'm not super sure how our school did it. I think the rumor has it we just kind of bummed off of some other guy's Wi-Fi.
That's awesome.
And it helped us out. Another really cool thing was our student radio station was down, and what helped get them up was a bunch of ham radio operators that came in and helped them.
Oh, there we go.
And of course, as we all know, Brandon is interested in ham radio.
I'm about to start getting into that too.
Yeah, actually have my ham license.
Nice.
And we've talked about that at length on not only on the show but with guests we've interviewed as well. So yeah, it's always I'm always interested in hearing those stories and hearing how relevant a seemingly ancient technology still is here in the 21st century.
Yeah, and here's more proof of it.
So you're
absolutely. I have a ham radio starter book that's saved on my Amazon gift list, and I'm just eyeing that for Christmas. So
hint, hint.
Nudge, nudge.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what you're basically saying, I mean, there was a period there it wasn't a lot of fun. You didn't know what was happening, but when did you start hearing about other locations around you that when you started realizing, oh my gosh, we dodged a real bullet?
Yeah, so again, we were pretty clueless going into it. We had no idea how bad it was going to be or how bad other areas got hit. And once they got the flooding from the road down, which was by the next day, thankfully, we were able to get out. However, again, we had no cell service, no internet. We didn't know what was going on. None of us had any clue. My roommate, she drove her car to Waynesville, which is about 30 minutes away, hoping we could get signal there. And it took her about an hour and 40 minutes to get there because of traffic, and cars were pulling over on the side of the road because they're running out of gas. It was real bad. And she got there and she found that there wasn't any service there either, and we were like, oh shit, the town surrounding us had no service. And so our biggest push was for information. So the very next day I started hunting around trying to look for newspapers, trying to find anything on the radios. The only thing I could get was a country station, and they were not giving out any news. And so I eventually found a coffee shop that was in town that had some Wi-Fi, and I was able to start getting out those messages. And my adoptee dad, Brian, he started texting me updates about everything, saying Chimney Rock's gone, stuff like that.
I did
Tell
hear
me
they
about it
basically
was
got
Astro.
wiped off the map again.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was, I didn't know anything until about like 3 days later. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're right, though. I mean, without the information available, you didn't know what was going on. I have to admit, I would probably be, saying about that, it would still probably was a shock when you heard about that and you realize, oh my gosh, you go half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour away from here, and there's nothing.
Yeah, no, we couldn't get past Waynesville either. They had the roads completely blocked off. So we were like very much stuck where we were. But, me and my roommates were very like calm people for the most part. So we just played a lot of D&D and board games.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's how we passed
Nice.
our hour.
It's very 70s and 80s.
Yeah, just got the board games.
Yeah,
Board
immediately
games and beer.
got-
That's one way to do it.
You betcha.
Yes. Once we got back inside, my roommate Randy, he brought out Axes and Allies. He's like, "You're playing Japan." I'm playing But yeah, no, we just felt so fortunate because we really got away with it. We, we had power. We had to boil our water for about a week or so after. But we had running water. We had our power. And that's not what people had literally about an hour from us. And so, yeah, no, we were just so thankful.
What was the situation with food and gasoline in town?
We hadn't gone shopping beforehand.
Oh, you didn't have to go. That's even better.
Yeah, no, we were pretty fine. We ate a lot of frozen pizza. We had some ramen noodle. We were grubbing out. Thankfully, like you said, they go for the perishables. So like canned food, we were like fine. We had pasta, all the other stuff.
Student food, as we used to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the ramen noodle soup.
Yes.
Yes, many went through college on ramen noodle soup.
Oh, yeah, that and bagels.
You got it. So, what kind of, has there, as you see areas begin to come back to what would pass for normal, and obviously the places are still going to be more than a year away before getting anything really done. What's been the volunteerism, the people helping out, going other places and helping? What have you?
What have you observed down there as far as relief efforts and stuff? How's that coming along?
There's just such a strong sense of community that's been going on. Everyone has been trying to help each other out. There's constant food drives and food banks to go out to the parts that need it most, like around Asheville and then, out towards Tennessee and, other places like that. And I would see it also from just outside of Western North Carolina. So like people all the way from like Lumberton, Wilmington, Charlotte, like they're all driving all these like trucks of like food, like to us. And that was fantastic. It's been really nice. It's still very strong. One of our coworkers texted us in our like work group chat, and they were like, "Hey, do you guys need anything? Like, we have an entire storage container that we're like going to give out to like those still affected by the storm." So even like now, it's still pretty prevalent.
That's great. That's great. Because we've been hearing stories all over the place in those areas of the Carolinas where there's been great relief efforts by people just helping neighbors. And it struck me when you were talking about that sense of community, even where you are, people just coming together. Maybe you didn't lose as much as other people did, but you know what? You still need each other, even in the midst of a crisis that may not be as bad as for you, but obviously, once you started realizing that, you not only did dodge a bullet, but how many people, really lost so much. And not less than an hour from you. That had to be. It's probably a very sobering thing to realize. Like we dodged a big one here, and very thankful about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a history major and an anthropology minor, and the week that we got back to school, our professor from the anthropology department, he explained to us that one of our grad students from there had drowned in the flood, and her and her family had passed away from that. And so people that have been known and loved around campus, like, unfortunately, lost their lives.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, how are the roads and conditions in your area now? Pretty much back to normal, or?
Pretty much back to normal. Our roads are a little bit more potholey than before, but they're getting a little paved over. The highways are getting a little bit better. It's easier to get in and out of Western North Carolina now. Whenever my roommates were trying to go back to Hickory, though, that's whenever they noticed, where they had to make, makeshift roads. Like, at one point on the highway, you had to just drive through some guy's yard. So that's how tough it was for a little bit.
And you just hope he wasn't on the hammock taking a nap when you went through.
Yeah, really.
Sorry about
sitting
that.
in a toll booth.
Yeah, set up a toll booth.
Really?
That would actually make kind of sense.
Now, again, how long was your internet out again? I just want to make sure you said how many days. I'm just trying to remember how long was your internet out again? About 3 or 4 days?
Oh no, it was out for about 5 or 6. I want to say.
Oh, wow. Your cell service too?
Yeah, so our cell service was out only in some parts of the town. After a couple of days were you able to kind of get a bar or two. Yeah. Everyone is at Walmart making calls.
Now, about how long did it take for the storm to actually pass through your location from the time you saw some of the first rains until it had moved on?
Thursday, it was just raining all day, but it wasn't a heavy rain. It's not like hurricane rains that you're used to. It was just, a light to medium rain throughout the day. It was steady. Nothing that I was expecting. But the thing is, since the river and flash floods, it's something that creeps up on you. So it literally most of the damage, most of the flooding happened through the night. So everything looked normal when I went to bed, and then I woke up and I was on an island.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was already a frontal system that was moving through the region before Helene came along, and Helene kind of tracked up along that system. So lots of places throughout the the Western Carolinas, Eastern Tennessee, et cetera, were already getting rains from that system. And I think some places people thought that was it. That was the storm. And then, of course, the rain bands from Helene hit later in the day throughout the night. And it's like, no, this is the storm.
Yeah, no. And I don't know, Helene, to me, it just came through silently. Nothing, I'm a pretty light sleeper, so anytime we did have hurricanes back at the beach, I'd be awake because the wind would be howling, the rain would be pounding on the windows and everything. Nothing. I slept like a baby that night. I'm gonna be honest.
You must not have had any significant wind in that area.
No, the wind wasn't heavy at all. It was very strange for me as a hurricane.
Yeah, somebody's been through a hurricane before. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very different.
So the winds didn't blow, but the rain fell.
But the rain fell.
Yeah. It wasn't even heavy.
It seems
strange.
This sounds like if you drill down to more of a granular level, if you go instead of state, even county by county, or even zip code by zip code, that some places there were little pockets here that got lighter rain versus other ones there that got medium or heavier rain and more wind. So it's interesting how Asheville basically got steamrolled.
Yes.
Places like Hickory and Chimney Rock kind of got blown off the map. And there you were in Cullowhee and just not much more than, rain and some flooding.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, Asheville always gets hit a little bit harder for things. So whenever it snows, Cullowhee, we hardly ever get anything. But because of where Asheville is located, I guess, I think they're in a valley. I'm not super sure off the top of my head, so. But they always get the full snow.
Yeah.
That could be.
Yeah.
That could be.
Now, it seems like anytime you're on the lee side of a mountain, too, you end up getting a little bit more versus a little bit less because the mountain will wring a little bit of the moisture out of the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
And then you move over the hills, and like you say, downwind or downslope, not much of anything goes on. It's just amazing. What are your thoughts and takeaways from what you went through? What stands out to you about what happened, your experience, and where's your thought process on that?
It definitely makes me want to be a little bit more on guard whenever it comes to things like that. I definitely want to work on getting my ham license, much like Brandon, because, during that thing, like, information was key.
Yeah.
Because we had nothing, like literally nothing. We didn't know what was going on. Our apartment complex got like over 200 calls from like parents trying to figure out like if their kids were alive.
Oh, wow.
If they were,
Wow.
yeah. Because no one knew anything. Other than that, I just get a real proud sense of like seeing people coming together and helping each other out, and just that drive to like keep everyone safe and, giving everyone a helping hand.
Well, yeah, it's always good.
I got a large charge out of the guys with the mule team.
Yes.
I enjoyed that. Yes, pack mules.
Some of those places, you didn't really have so much a road going up there as you had like a little, dirt path, and that gets washed out. The only thing that might be open is, a game trail or something, and, somebody that's hunted them our hills, for their entire life, knows every deer trail and hog trail, and leads the mule team through.
Yeah, I know. The thing about a mule is compared to a horse is a mule can get almost anywhere.
Yes,
they're very sure-footed. So really, you had only two ways of reaching some of those places. One was with a helicopter, and the other one was with a mule team.
Yes, that was how we got our first batch of supplies was through helicopter up the mountain.
That's great. I mean, when I look back, even a month down the road or a couple of months down the road, and the widespread destruction, but which was just horrific. But again, just like yourself and other people, I've just heard one encouraging story after another from neighbor helping neighbor, and that really again proves the point about you can just kind of. We get all kinds of fun noises here.
Hey, Gary, what are you doing?
I don't know. Just did that.
What's going on there?
Sound effects.
I just love them. Their sound effects. So we'll have to do some their editing on this again. But what's supposed to talk without having to chop out half of it? So.
That's right.
That's right. Really. So anyway, go back to that.
Spend an hour for a 15-minute show.
That's right.
That's us.
That's us. Anyway, but just like I said, when you're looking at everything and you see people coming together and working with one another through all that, and they're not worried about who, what, where's coming down the road to help them or what. They're just like, hey, we have to start picking up the pieces ourselves. And I think there's that determination, which I've always in any of these storms. I remember even though a tragic storm like Katrina, I remember all the people that came in and did so much work after Katrina and moved out of New Orleans and helped thousands get their lives back together. So I think that is always the best part to me of a horrible story is the human part, the part where people just open their hearts out and just give. And that's really, that's the best response to any disaster is to identify with the people, agree with them, and help them put their lives back together if you can.
Yeah, stuff like that. It both brings out the worst in people, but also you see a lot of the best too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
I love some of the creative problem solving that we saw. Like, for example, like Sue brought up the mule teams.
Yeah.
I don't know how many areas there are where somebody would have thought of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, and I think those guys came in from the outside too. I'm not sure where they were originally based, but the idea that somebody still has pack mules is wonderful.
Yeah. Some came in on bikes, a couple of motorcycle groups.
Yeah, people came in on bikes and dirt bikes and stuff, yeah.
You didn't see any of that where you lived, right, Maddie? Nothing?
No, unfortunately. I would have loved that.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, right.
A mule team in front of university in the morning. Oh, they're really going back in time with that education stuff.
Helicopters are pretty cool.
Helicopters are cool.
And it's even cooler like when an osprey comes in.
That's true.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So, Maddie, any closing thoughts you want to share about all this?
I think, just pay attention to the weather. Yeah. Actually, let's do, your local reports and try your best to follow along. But even in situations like this, where that didn't really fully explain, the pure amount of destruction that was coming our way, just always being on the prepared side, I think, and just looking out for each other.
Yeah, always pay attention to what's happening in the forecast and keep your eye on things, because you can get surprised sometimes. And
absolutely.
You're not the only one. I've heard of people coming in those areas say, some of the areas we got no warning. They just said, it may flood, it may rain and flood. The next thing you know, they wake up in the morning and they see their car going down what used to be the street, which is now a river. Yeah. So you have all these issues, and it's sad that not everybody, quote, got the mail or got the check in the mail saying, hey, bad stuff is coming. So,
yeah.
But anyway, well, Maddie, I really appreciate you being with us today on Twister Talk and sharing what you saw there, and then how it did, even though you didn't get hit as hard as other places, it always impacts everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, it's also good to hear from somebody who's actually out there on the ground. There's just been a lot of inaccurate blithering.
Yes.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that.
Got to slog through social media to find what's actually happening.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So don't depend on social media for your weather reports, guys.
No, definitely not.
But make sure
your phone,
always
have your weather radio.
Yes.
And always be ready, because you never know. When someone says something is coming, make sure it's true, because sometimes they fib, but other times you say, well, no one's talking about this, and you'd be surprised that something sneaks up and whaps you. Mm-hmm. And that's happened more than once. So anyway, Maddie, thank you so much for joining us today on Twisted Talk. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks for being with us. And
thanks also to Brandon for setting it up.
That's right, Brandon. Mm-hmm. You'll find something extra in your paycheck this week.
Nice.
Paycheck.
We get paid for this?
What?
We get paycheck? When did that start? Oh, I'm sorry. Was I supposed to not talk about that?
I haven't even gotten a Twister Talk T-shirt yet.
Yeah, I know. We got to work on that.
Oh, really?
Well, so I guess on that note, we'll get out of here before the license gets yanked. For Twister Talk, I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
And I'm Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.